What's going on, y'all? It's your man Pristine back with another video. Welcome to the LG Q7 Plus here to the left versus the LG G7 Thin Q, which is LG's flagship device of 2018. Some of you guys requested it. Here it is. All right. Now, I just want to dive a little bit into these two devices really quickly, just to kind of see more so where the Q7 stacks up against the Thin Q. We know that the Thin Q is the flagship. It's got everything. You guys know how I feel about this device. I made a video claiming why, in my personal opinion, the LG G7 Thin Q is the best smartphone released in 2018 thus far. And we'll see if that continues to be the case as we get later on in the year and more devices coming out. We got the Note 9, the new iPhones, the Pixel phones coming out later on, or in a month and a half or two. So then, it'll be interesting to see, okay, how does the G7 stack up against those devices? What are those devices going to do to one up what the G7 has done? The Q7 Plus here being LG's mid-range iteration, very newly released as well, and they released this thing very quietly. And my understanding is that Metro PCS is also selling the Q7 Plus here. I didn't realize that. I thought it was a T-Mobile exclusive. So thank you guys for correcting me on that front. But it's interesting in the comments. When I dropped the unboxing video, I'm sure you guys have seen the videos that I've done on the G7 Thin Q here, and some of you were just like, well, why even bother getting the Q7 Plus, right? I mean, you got the G7, you got the G7 Thin Q. Why even bother? Why even bother with the Q7 Plus? And honestly, I was really intrigued by the Q7 Plus because from what I can tell, I personally haven't seen LG dive too deeply in the mid-range category. Now, they got a lot of budget devices and they got flagship devices. But when you start talking about mid-range, I feel like their catalog for mid-range devices is very, very slim. Either that's the case or I'm just not paying enough attention. And so, when I saw the Q7 Plus, and I saw how sleek and how small it was. Still, you got the 5.5-inch display on a 5.2-inch phone footprint. I seen that 18:9 aspect ratio, and I seen Q7 Plus. I hadn't heard too much about it. I looked up the specs, decent specs. I was kind of questioning the Snapdragon 450 processor, but even since I've had this phone and I've been using it, that's not a problem. I mean, the 450 is very snappy. And it gets you, what you need to do when you need to do it with no problems at all whatsoever. And I think another thing that I was intrigued by the Q7 Plus is the fact that having the Stylo 4 and just stating my thoughts on the Stylo 4 and wishing that it was being marketed more so as a mid-range device to compete more so with the Note, which is the only other device that has a stylus. The direction was still shifted more towards the budget category, and it had the 450 processor, which isn't a bad thing. 2 gigs of RAM. I felt like it could have been a little more of a powerhouse, if they would have upped the ante a little bit with the specs. And so I felt like I don't mind the 450 processor, but I was like, why only 2 gigs of RAM? Why not bless us with 3 or 4? Well, the Q7 Plus here, as I was checking out the specs when I first seen it a few weeks ago, I was like, wow, okay, well, yeah, we got the Snapdragon 450 processor. Okay, cool. What were we looking at as far as RAM, battery life, all that kind of thing? And I saw that we got 4 gigs of RAM on board. 64 gigs of internal storage with expandable memory up to 2 terabytes. We got, Type-C connectivity with fast charge. We got the 32-bit quad hi-fi DAC. We got the DTSX surround sound to complement that DAC to enhance the sound and customize it even more so when you're talking about music and so forth. We got IP68 water and dust resistance. We got the fingerprint sensor on the back. We got facial recognition. We got a $350 price tag. And so again, I was just like, whoa, that's a lot of what we see here placed here for a much cheaper price tag. You know what I mean? And so that was really what intrigued me to get my hands on the Q7 Plus. And so I understand people asking me, okay, well, you got the G7, why get the Q7 Plus? Well, why not? You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's a good device. I mean, it's been working out really well for me so far. So definitely stay tuned for the dedicated camera video followed by the pristine review. But yeah, I mean, it's been working out solid. And so I just wanted to, I haven't really tested them both side by side, but there's a lot of familiarity because I'm very familiar with LG devices and definitely having the G7 Thin Q, pretty much, since it was launched. And then, getting my hands on the Q7 Plus, there's a lot of similarities there. And I like that. And so, you know, again, when comparing these two devices, the question is the difference in price worth it to buy the G7 Thin Q over the Q7 Plus now that the Q7 Plus exists? Okay, now let's talk about some of the differences. Now, obviously, if you look at these two devices, there's a clear difference in size. Okay, the LG G7 Thin Q is a 6.1 inch display. Okay, it's a Quad HD panel. We got a 5.5 inch display here on the Q7 Plus. Now, that's not a bad thing. 5.5 is still a big screen. But again, it doesn't even look like it. When you hold it in your hand, I mean, it's such a lightweight and it's such a comfortable hold, especially when you've been dealing with a lot of phones that are this size or higher, or maybe they're not as thin. One of the main things that I love about the G7 Thin Q is, yeah, it's got the it's got the vertically stretched display, but the body of the device, it's not spread. It doesn't have a lot of girth to it as far as how wide it is, so it feels good in the hands. Well, the Q7 Plus also has that same dimension. As you can see, side by side, the Q7 Plus is no more thicker than the G7 Thin Q here, but it's just smaller and it's lighter. So in my personal opinion, it provides more of a comfort level and ergonomically and just more ergonomically sound while you're holding it in your hand. Okay. Now, as far as the, like I said, we got a Quad HD display here. We've got a Full HD 1080p panel here. Is that a big deal? No, it's not. If we look at where the brightness is, where you can see this, I think the brightness on the, well, here, okay, so wait. Yeah, so the brightness is on 40 on the Thin Q, and it's on 50 on the Q7 Plus. Both of these devices have that 1000 nit little button function. So if you're having problems seeing, then you can just click on that and you see that. And same thing on the G7 Plus. Wow, Jesus, I mean, it's blinding. And then if you want to take it away from that, then you just hit the button back and it take me back to my 50, take me back to my 40, and we're good to go. I mean, so, being able to viewing angles for these devices, it doesn't matter what type of circumstances that you're in. If you're holding the phone off of its axis, looking at it from the side, top, bottom, up, down, side to side, you know what I'm saying? I mean, you will be able to see either one of these devices. 1000 nits is blinding. And I think that LG implemented that on the G7 Plus because they were tired of all these rants that people were talking about their screens not being bright enough to compete with a lot of the other displays that are out there, mainly Samsung, which just has the best displays on planet Earth, in my personal opinion. Nonetheless, there are a lot of other displays out there that are really good, but yeah, LG, they wanted to correct that. So it's good to also see that here on the Q7 Plus, right? Now, from a performance standpoint, okay, if we look at these two devices and how they function, I got pretty much all my applications are set up the exact same on each and every one of my phones. There is no difference. This is just my setup. I manually move these applications around. I'm not running any type of skin or anything like that. I'm not running, any kind of launcher. I rock with whatever is on the phone out the box, and I just switch it up to look how I want it to look. And that's what I do. So a lot of you guys are asking me like, what skin is that, or what launcher is that? I don't even play with all that stuff, yo. You know what I mean? I just download my apps and I move my apps around. I create these little folders that I want to create, to keep things nice and organized. And that's what I do. Now, Both of these devices are connected to my Wi-Fi right now. We already know that speeds are going to be different depending on your Wi-Fi connection versus your LTE speeds. So I'll open up a couple of applications just so you guys can kind of see to see if there is a major difference in speed. Now I know that there's a difference in power. There's no doubt that the G7 Plus or the G7 Thin Q can take on way more than the Q7 Plus here. But don't get it confused and to think that the Q7 Plus is a punk, because it ain't no pump. All right. Now it's a given that the G7 Thin Q can handle more, but you may be surprised at what the Q7 Plus here can handle. So let's just go ahead and just open up a few applications. Again, Snapdragon 450, Snapdragon 845. All right. Let's do it. I'm gonna open up the Bible app here. Both phones are connected to my Wi-Fi in the house. All right. Let's get it. Okay, now I expect the 845 to open each and every one of these apps sooner than the 450. But the question that you have to ask yourself is, are the differences in time that this take place so significant that it would justify paying the additional monies for the G7 over the Q7 Plus if you're looking at both of these phones as an option? Now, as you just saw, opening up the Bible app, yeah, it opened up faster on the Thin Q. Okay, the Thin Q's got the 845 with 4 gigs of RAM. The Q7 Plus here's got the Snapdragon 450, also with 4 gigs of RAM. But again, the 450 is a lesser tier processor. But how much longer did it take for the Q7 Plus to open up aside the G7 Plus? Was it minutes or was it seconds? You're talking about maybe a 2 or 3 second difference, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so let's go ahead and close that out. And let's see. Now let's go to some hardcore apps that have a lot of content in them, right? Let's go to Spotify real quick. To be expected. Okay. Now I'm offline and I forgot about that. So let me turn off offline mode, because while I'm in offline mode, when I go into the app on my G7 Thin Q, all that means is it just has to load up the music that I've got downloaded to the device, not my whole Spotify catalog. So now that I'm offline mode is off, let's just clear out everything. Let's go back to Spotify. Now that both phones are going to have to load up everything, and let's see how long it takes then. Okay, so what are we talking? A 4 second difference? Maybe 3.5, 4 seconds. I mean, hey, personally, I think that the Q7 Plus is managing quite well against its older sibling. Now let's go into SoundCloud real quick. Okay, what was that, a 1.5, 2 seconds? You know, let's keep it going. Okay, Pandora. Okay, same thing. Few seconds, but it still popped right open. Okay, now that is, let's go ahead and close these out. That's with the Wi-Fi connection. All right, now let's turn Wi-Fi off. Wi-Fi off there, Wi-Fi off there. Now, this is through Verizon, the G7 Thin Q. My Q7 Plus is with T-Mobile. Both of them have 4G connectivity right now, but oddly enough, I noticed when I'm home, Verizon or T-Mobile, I seem to get all bars. Verizon, I've only got like a bar or two, but I still got the 4G LTE logo up there, so we're still picking up a signal. So let's go ahead and test that out. All right, I'm gonna open up the same apps real quick, just only under the 4G LTE connection. Let's see our LTE connection, and let's see if we see a significant difference here. Whoa. Now that was almost identical. I think that maybe the G7 Plus or the G7 Thin Q maybe opened it maybe like a millisecond before. Almost hard to tell the difference, right? Okay, so let's go out of that. Let's take it over to Spotify. Okay, Spotify under 4G LTE. T-Mobile, Verizon. Wow. Closer than what the experts might say, huh? Things things that make us go, Okay. Now, let's keep it going. Let's go shopping for a minute. Let's go let's go to Best Buy. Wow. Now, the Q7 Plus took that one. Is that a surprise? Maybe to you, not to me. Sometimes these things just happen. If you go back and look at that processor battle that I did between the G7 the OnePlus 6, I'm sorry, and my Lenovo Z5, the OnePlus 6 has the 845 in it. The Lenovo Z5 has the Snapdragon 636. And there were a few applications that opened up quicker, on that Z5 than on the OnePlus 6. I'm sure a lot of people didn't see that coming. Okay? So let's keep it going now. Let's stay in the shopping category. All right, let's go to Amazon. Let's see what's cracking in the world of Amazon. Okay, that seemed to open up pretty much identical as well. Delivered today. Oh, okay, that was a case that I had delivered. But yeah, that was also pretty much identical. So let's keep it going. And I'm not going to take too much of your time, but I'm just trying to prove a point here. Let's go to GearBest. Okay. So the G7 Thin Q took that one. Not by much, but it took that one. Okay. Now let's go to eBay. Okay, wow. Well, the Q7 Plus, it took that one too. Ladies and gentlemen, the main point that I'm trying to make, by doing this video is this is 2018 that we're living in. And I feel like we're living in an era, in a time where there's not that significant of a difference between these processor speeds like there once were. We used to live in a time frame where, depending on the internal specs of a device, there was a clear difference in performance and speed and all that type of thing. Things have evolved. Technology has evolved so much from then until now. So we live in a day and age nowadays where you can't just look at the specs and knock or judge a device based on those specs compared to other specs that are in other devices. We now live in an era nowadays where we have to literally get the devices in our hands and try them out, because we just may be shocked, ladies and gentlemen, at the way that some of these devices perform, but we won't know that unless we give them a chance. And I think it's interesting how a lot of devices get written off because people just look at the internal specs and they're just like, oh, it has this or it has that. Oh, it's not even worth it. Now, if that's how you feel, that's how you feel. Everybody's entitled to their opinion, based on what it is that they're viewing in that moment. You know what I'm saying? So this isn't any knock to anybody that question whether or not, why I got this phone, since I have the G7 Thin Q, or I know some people in the comments were like, oh, well, I looked at the specs. I seen that Snapdragon 450 processor. I'm a pass. And I'm just like, well, hey, time out now. You know what I'm saying? It's like, have you had this device? This device, it ain't no punk, as I just displayed here. It can hold its own and go toe to toe with some of the best. And so I think that this should be another example that there isn't that much of a wide margin between these phones. Yeah, on paper, these two devices side by side, on paper, the LG G7 Thin Q is crushing this Q7 Plus on paper. But when you get them side by side and you test the performance, like I said, we know Snapdragon 845 processor, 4 gigs of RAM, 64 gigs of onboard storage expanded up to 2 terabytes. We got a PPI pixel density of 563. We've got an Adreno 630. You know, this phone is a monster. The G7 Thin Q, right? It's a monster. It's a beast. Okay. But then you get the Q7 Plus here, and it's got the Snapdragon 450. Some people have said that it's comparable to the 600 series Snapdragon processors, which I'd agree with that, because you see how well it's keeping up with the 845, which is 2018's latest and greatest. So I would agree with the fact that this little 450 processor can keep up to par with some of the 600 series processors, whether it be the 625, the 630, the 636, the 660. The new Snapdragon 710. I mean, this is proof that this Snapdragon 450 can go toe to toe with all those devices. This is the 845. This is 2018's latest and greatest here in the LG G7 Thin Q. I mean, what more do you want me to say, ladies and gentlemen? Now, if you also take a little bit, take a look at what this phone is housing as well. Because again, some of the best features here, yeah, okay, the Q7 Plus. We got an 8 megapixel front-facing selfie camera here on the G7 Thin Q. We got an 8 megapixel front-facing selfie camera here on the Q7 Plus. Now, some of the differences, okay, the G7 Thin Q is key enabled. It's wireless charge compatible. The Q7 Plus is not wireless charge compatible. If you double tap to close both the screens, double tap to wake, they both have facial recognition, as you can see, on the Q7 Plus, that just popped right open. The G7 Thin Q is more so facing the camera, which is why it didn't open up, or it would have. It's just as snappy as what you saw in the Q7 Plus there, but nonetheless, that's a good feature on a $350 mid-range device. Now, if you turn these phones over, then that's when you'll see some of the cosmetic differences, because here on the Q7 Plus, which is rocking that beautiful Moroccan blue color, I'm a huge fan of that. This phone turns heads. I've had several people ask me, what is that? Because they saw the color and they ain't never seen nothing like that before. They were mesmerized by it. This has a primary 16 megapixel sensor. The G7 Plus Thin, or the G7 Thin Q, also has a primary 16 megapixel sensor, but we have another sensor as well. I believe it's a 12 megapixel. I think it's a 12 megapixel, or maybe it's an 8 megapixel sensor, secondary wide angle sensor. I think it's a 16. I think it's a 16 megapixel wide angle lens as well. So the G7 Thin Q has a very solid rear camera. It has another camera, it went from 120 degrees to I think 108 degrees, but still it gets wide enough to capture pretty much everything you want to capture in a shot. Okay, it's got all the cinematography features and functions, that were introduced in the LG V30 of last year, which is still a really good device to this day. A lot of that technology has been implemented here on the Q7 Plus, but the only thing is the Q7 Plus does not have that secondary lens for wide angle on the front or the back. The Q7 Plus does not have optical image stabilization like the Big Bro does here on the LG G7 Thin Q. But nonetheless, it's still a really, really good camera system here on the LG Q7 Plus. And in my personal opinion, I feel like a lot of these pictures are very comparable to what we find on the LG G7 Thin Q, in my personal opinion. And I'll post up, I'll post up a couple of photos, so you guys can take a look, so you guys can see, for yourself exactly what I'm talking about. So $350, $750. This device here, the G7 ThinQ is $400 more than this device. With the information that I just gave you about these two devices and what you just saw with your own eyes, is this device here, it's a great device. It's one of my favorites. But is it $400 better than the Q7 Plus? We got Type-C fast charging here in the Q7 Plus. Type-C fast charging here on the LG G7 ThinQ. The G7 ThinQ has the speaker. The sound quality on the Q7 Plus sounds very comparable. And I haven't read anywhere that says that the same speaker technology that's built into the LG G7 is the same technology that's built into the Q7 Plus, but the two sound very similar. Okay, very similar. Headphone jack, 32-bit hi-fi quad DAC. Headphone jack, 32-bit hi-fi quad DAC. DTS-X surround sound. DTS-X surround sound. IP68 water and dust. Also IP68 water and dust resistant. 3000 milliamp hour battery, 3300 milliamp hour battery. Both phones perform very well, especially with the way that I use them because I'm a moderate user. So 3000 milliamps serves me just fine. I get through a full day with no problems whatsoever and still have some change to spare moving into the next day. I get a little bit better battery life with the G7 ThinQ because the battery is a little bit bigger, not by much, only by 300 milliamps. That's not that significant of a difference. But nonetheless, there is a difference there. Like I said, this is Qi enabled, Qi enabled, so the G7 ThinQ is wireless charge compatible. The Q7 Plus is not. So again, there's some compromises there. You get wireless charging here, you don't get it here. You get the wide angle lens here, you don't get it here. You get a quad HD panel here, you get a full HD panel here. You get a Snapdragon 845 processor here, you get a Snapdragon 450 processor here. Now, and I do want to say this, I think where you may run into some of those differences as well. Now, from a power perspective, is the Q7 Plus can handle a lot that you throw at it. Don't get it confused. It can handle a lot that you throw at it. But say if you're gaming, and I don't have any examples, at the moment to show because I don't game on my phone. I'm a console gamer. PlayStation 4 Pro. All right, I'm a PlayStation guy. So me personally, gaming on my phone, I just won't do it, right? But I know that that's a big thing that people are doing nowadays. You got your Fortnites, your PUBGs. You know what I'm saying? You got all these kind of games. Now I'm confident that you'll be able to play those games on the Q7 Plus here. But I think that you're going to have a much smoother experience if you play those games on the G7 ThinQ because it's got that processing power that's backing it, and it's optimized for a lot of that heavy, graphically intense gameplay and stuff like that. So if you're doing it here on the Q7 Plus, you may experience some little, a little lag, a little choppiness. You may have to scale the settings back a little bit just to get it to run optimally. You know what I mean? As opposed to not really having to tweak the settings at all. On the G7 because of the specs that it's housing, and it's got that processor that is enabling it to power through whatever that the game has to throw at it. There's where you may notice some of the differences in performance, but all in all, just overall day-to-day task, web browsing, surfing, opening and closing applications, having multiple applications open at the same time. Both phones have excellent RAM management. I can see, closed out a few of them, but you can see knifing through these are buttery smooth. We'll pop back into Spotify. Spotify just pops right back open. We'll go back into what is it? Let's go back into the Bible app. You see the Bible app just pops right back open. What else we got open? What else we got open? Okay. Well, let's pop back into Best Buy. Best Buy just pops right back open. I mean, come on, man. You know what I mean? Is the LG Q7 Plus that big of a drop off from the LG G7 Thin Q, which is LG's 2018 flagship device? In my personal opinion, I don't think so. So you have to ask yourself, is the G7 Thin Q, the things that it has over the Q7 Plus, which in my opinion isn't much, but do you guys feel as though that those differences that the G7 Thin Q has is worth $400 more? Things that make us go, I'll let you guys be the determiner. I'll let you guys determine that. That's all I got here for my comparison video of the LG Q7 Plus versus the LG G7 Thin Q. If you like this video, smash that thumbs up button. Be sure to like, share this video, and subscribe to the channel for much more content. Be sure to hit that notification bell so that every time I upload a video, you can be the first to view it. Drop your questions, your comments. I'm an open book. My apologies if it takes me a while to get back to you guys. I know some of you guys, I don't respond, and it's not that I'm doing it purposely. It's just I've got a lot of stuff going on, and I get hundreds of messages from all you guys asking questions or comments. I read through a lot of that stuff. Sometimes I may not be doing anything, and when I'm not doing anything and I have the time to respond, I do. A lot of times I see this stuff and I'm completely tied up and I have every intention to get back with you, and then something else will pop up and I get completely sidetracked. But it's not like I'm just completely ignoring you guys. But I mean, it's unrealistic for me to be able to respond to every single last question or comment that you guys have. Okay, because it's a lot of stuff coming in. But that's a blessing at the same time. So I want to try to respond to as many of you as I possibly can. And so I just wanted to say to you guys that for those of you that hit me up in the comments, whether you got a question or a comment or something like that, if I don't get back with you, please do not take it personally. It doesn't mean that I don't like you. It doesn't mean that I'm not interested in what you have to say or interested in answering the question that you may have. It's just I'm juggling this channel. I'm juggling a marriage, I'm juggling 3 children, and I'm juggling also a full-time career in the medical field. I've got a lot of stuff going on right now, on top of whatever other responsibilities that I got outside of those things. So it's a lot of stuff going on. But I appreciate you guys rocking with me, being patient with me, sticking with the channel, supporting the channel. I see that we're getting very close to hitting 4,000 subs. That's major for me. That far exceeds where I thought that I would be at this particular time frame. So God has been good. You guys have been good. I've been blessed, with the resources to get my hands on these devices to make videos like this, to try to help inform you guys as much as possible, to help you make an informed decision on what your next smartphone purchase may be. That's all I do this for. I do this just to help you guys out with phones that you may be interested in. And, these videos like this are so necessary nowadays, because it's not like a lot of these devices that you see. We can't just go into the store and play with these phones like that. And yeah, they may have them on display, but a lot of these experiences that we're showing on camera, giving you just like, letting you into our world, our homes, our families with photos and pictures and things of that nature. I mean, and just really just seeing real world uses with these devices. I mean, I feel like that goes a long way in helping somebody, want to purchase something. A lot of the content that I've seen in these videos has helped me make decisions on whether I did or did not want to purchase a device, because I seen it in someone's head. I seen someone using it in real world usage, real world testing, not just somewhere in a store on demo mode. You know what I mean? So I thank you guys so very much. I'm blessed to be in this position where I can, do this particular thing for you guys, and I just hope that it continues to grow and expand. And I know that I wouldn't be able to do that without you guys, man. So much love to you guys. And yeah, LG Q7 Plus here to the left, LG G7 Thin Q to the right. Comparison video. Let me know what you guys think about both of these devices down below in the comments. Let me know what you think about this comparison video. If you didn't like it, smash that thumbs down. That comes with the territory. I'm not a hypersensitive, so hey, everybody's entitled to their opinions. All right? I'm your man, Pristine. Until the next video, please keep it safe. Get spiritually fit. We're definitely living in the last days. Get spiritually fit and keep it pristine in every aspect of your lives. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.